hearing SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Kapil Bhagavan is instructing his mother Devahuti. We heard the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is felt in the time factor, which causes fear of death due to the false ego of the deluded soul who has contacted material nature. Anyone who contacted material nature and misidentifies, means false ego, he will have fear of death, everyone. And the time factor, which removes everything, that is influence or potency of Supreme Lord. Yes. In commentary, Sai Maharaj is telling this thing. The living entity's fear of death is due to his false ego of identifying with the body. Everyone is afraid of death. Actually, there is no death for the spirit soul, but due to our absorption in the identification of body as self, the fear of death develops. And but that does not mean that one who realizes that he is not this body, that he will like kill the body. No. Yesterday also we heard when Sanatana Goswami contacted some skin disease while traveling through forest and there was no proper water, then Mahaprabhu embraced him, but Sanatana Goswami felt uncomfortable because of that. Then he was thinking, I will throw my body under Jagannath's Ratha Yatra, that wheel, and I will give up this body. I don't want to commit this offense to Mahaprabhu. He's touching my impure body. Then Mahaprabhu told him, no, you should not do this, because when you took shelter of me, then you offered everything to me. So this body is not your body, it is my body. And I have to do many things through this body, through you. So you are not to kill your body. So devotees, they're also careful with this body, because it belongs to Krishna and it should be used for his service. So they are not careless. Also, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave permission to Jagadananda Pandit to go to Vrindavan from Puri, he told him, don't go by this road because there are many robbers there. You go through that road. So devotees, they are also careful, not due to fear of identifying with the body, but because they want to take care of the body for the service of Krishna. But conditioned souls, where there is misidentity, there is always fear. It is also stated in the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Bhayam Dvitiya Abhiniveshata Syat. Dvitiya refers to matter, which is beyond spirit. Matter is the secondary manifestation of spirit, for matter is produced from spirit. Just as the material elements described are caused by the Supreme Lord, or the Supreme Spirit, the body is also a product of the spirit soul. Therefore, the material body is called Dvitiya, or the second. One who is absorbed in this second element or second exhibition of the spirit is afraid of death. When one is fully convinced that he is not his body, there is no question of fearing death, since the spirit soul does not die. Convinced here does not mean only theoretically. By realization one has to know, I am Atma, has no birth, no death. No any material change can affect that. Atma, atom bomb, nothing can affect Atma, impossible. So one who is fully convinced means realized soul, he has no fear of that. If the spirit soul engages in the spiritual activities of devotional service, he is completely freed from the platform of birth and death. His next position is complete spiritual freedom from a material body. The fear of death is the action of the Kala, or the time factor, which represents the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, time is destructive. Whatever is created is subject to destruction and dissolution, which is the action of time. Time is a representation of the Lord, and it reminds us also that we must surrender unto the Lord. The Lord speaks to every conditioned soul as time. He says in Bhagavad Gita that if someone surrenders unto him, then there is no longer any problem of birth and death. We should therefore accept the time factor as the Supreme Personality of Godhead standing before us. This is further explained in the following verse. Prakriter guna samyasya nirvisheshasya manavi cheshtayatah sa bhagavan kala iti upalakshitaha. My dear mother, O daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, the time factor, as I have explained, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom the creation begins as a result of the agitation of the neutral, unmanifested nature. When it is unmanifested, then by the influence of time, that will start to happen, creation. Pradhan. In reality, it cannot act without the agitator, that material nature. Time, who is the representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the agitator. When time agitates the neutral state of material nature begins to produce varieties of manifestations. Antah Purusha Rupena, Kala Rupena Yobahi, Samanveti Esha Sattvanam, Bhagavan Atma Maya. By exhibiting his potencies, the Supreme Personality of Godhead adjusts all these different elements, keeping himself within as the super soul and without as time. Devat Kshubita Dharminyam Swasyam Yono Parahpuman Adhata Viryam Sasuta Mahatatam Hiranmayam. After the Supreme Personality of Godhead impregnates material nature with his internal potency, material nature delivers the sum total of the cosmic intelligence, which is known as Hiranmaya. This takes place in material nature when she is agitated by the destinations of the conditioned souls. here it is mentioned, impregnates material nature with his internal potency. It is meant marginal potency, because Swarup Shakti's minutest form, like atomic form, is Tatashta Shakti, Jiva Shakti. Both are conscious living entities, but there is also difference. We are atomic particles of Swarup Shakti. That is why it is called Tatashta Shakti. Here also, it is described in the Vishnu Purana in commentary that the living entities belong to the spiritual nature. They are conscious beings. The potency of the Supreme Lord is spiritual, and the living entities, although they are called marginal potency, are also spiritual, means conscious. But relatively small is marginal potency, atomic. You will find in Jeva Dharma this explanation. If the living entities were not spiritual, this description of impregnation by the Supreme Lord would not be applicable. The Supreme Lord does not put his semen into that which is not spiritual, but it is stated here that the Supreme Person puts his semen into material nature. This means that the living entities are spiritual by nature. Hiranmaya. This takes place in material nature when she is agitated by the destinations of the conditioned souls, according to their karma of previous creation. They will be now manifested. Means they will get such bodies to continue where they left, because that karma is not destroyed during universal dissolution. So we cannot blame God at any time that he put jivas in certain condition. It is always due to their own actions. Krishna is only giving the fruit of those actions. Vishwam Atmagatam Vyanjan Kutasto Jagat Ankura Sva Teja Sapibat Tivram Atma Praswapanam Tama. Thus, after manifesting variegatedness, the effulgent Mahatattva, which contains all the universes within itself, which is the root of all cosmic manifestations, and which is not destroyed at the time of annihilation, swallows the darkness that covered the effulgence at the time of dissolution. So when new creation will come, the darkness will be removed by that Mahatattva. First Mahatattva, Prakriti, the Mahatattva, and then ego will come. Yes. Yat tat sattva gunam swacham shantam bhagavatah padam yat ahur vasudevakyam chitam tan mahat atmakam. The mode of goodness, which is clear, sober status of understanding the personality of Godhead, and which is generally called Vasudeva, or consciousness, becomes manifest in the Mahatattva. So here it is meant, in commentary, Sai Maharaj clarified the Vasudeva manifestation, or the status of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called pure goodness, or Shuddha Sattva. In the Shuddha Sattva status, there is no infringement of the other qualities, namely passion and ignorance. So it is not this worldly Satya Guna, Rajaguna, Tamaguna, Triguna. No, this is, here it is meant, this Sattva, Yatat Sattva Gunam means Vishuddha Sattva, Vasudeva. Swachatvam avikaritvam shantatvam iti chetasa vritibir lakshanam proktam yathapam prakriti para. After the manifestation of the Mahatattva, these features appear simultaneously. As water in its natural state before coming in contact with earth is clear, sweet and unruffled, so the characteristic traits of pure consciousness are complete serenity, clarity and freedom from distractions. Mahatattvad vikurvanat bhagavat virya sambhavat kriya shaktir ahankaras trividah samapadyata vaikarikas tejasascha tamasascha yato bhava manasaschendriyanam cha bhutanam mahatam api. The material ego springs up from the Mahatattva, which evolved from the Lord's own energy. The material ego is endowed predominantly with active power of three kinds: good, passionate, and ignorant. It is from these three types of material ego that the mind, the senses of perception, the organs of action, and the gross elements evolve. This already we heard how creation is gradually unfolding. First is Prakriti or Pradhan, if we simplify the Prakriti, then Mahatattva, then these three kinds of ego, and from Satya Guna ego certain things are coming out, from Rajaguna certain things, and from Tamo Guna ego certain things. These are all material elements. Then Bhagavan will impregnate that with Jiva Shakti and it will move. Sahasra Shirasam Shakshat Yam Anantam Prachakshate Sankarshanakyam Purusham Bhutendriya Mano Mayam. The threefold Ahankara, the source of the gross elements, the senses and the mind, is identical with them because it is their cause. This is also in Upanishad many times in commentary. The effect is same as cause by connection. Not fully same, but it is also not separate, and sometimes the same name can be used for the effect and as the cause. That is why Mayavadis, Advaitavadis, they will in certain cases misinterpret when like Indra is designated as God, they will say yes, he's not different, but it means that God is the cause of Indra, and you can use same name, but that is another. You will have to read Upanishad to see in commentaries of Vaishnavas how this can be used, and that effect can be called same as the cause because of their interrelationship. But Mayavadi interpretation as absolutely identical is wrong. Because you have to accept other statements also of Upanishads, then it becomes clear what is meant there. All statements you have to accept. This was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and to Prakashananda Saraswati Mayavadi. You are only taking in isolation some statements, and certain statements you are ignoring. If you are accepting Shastra, you have to accept Shastra in complete form, everything, and you have to find how harmony is there between all these seemingly contradictory statements. You have to find. So these Vaishnava Acharyas, because of their transcendental realization, they explained in different ways. For different, tomorrow we will observe about Madhvacharya, how they could harmonize difference and non-difference. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also gave his own, that is highest ultimate development of philosophy, is Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. Jiva Goswami explained in his writings about Mahaprabhu's Siddhanta in regard to Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavatam. So, threefold Ahankar is identical with them because it is their cause. It is known by the name of Shankarshan, who is directly Lord Ananta with 1,000 heads. He represents that Ahankar. Kartritvam, Karanatvam cha, Karyatvam cheti lakshanam, Shanta Ghora Vimudhatvam, iti vasyat ahankrite. This false ego is characterized as the doer, as an instrument, and as an effect. It is further characterized as serene, active, or dull, according to how it is influenced by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. It is since long time that Mayavad is going on in India. But nowadays also it is coming more and more into West by their giving Upanishads translations and commentaries by Shankaracharya. So generally people, they think this is the meaning of Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra, but it is not. You have to read commentaries of Ramanuja, Madhva, and Vishnu Saminim Barka. Then you can understand. It is not Advaita, absolute oneness is not correct Siddhanta. But you will not be able to explain to them unless you also show from Upanishads. That is why Baladev Vidyabhushan, he also wrote commentaries to Upanishads, and Jiva Goswami did not directly write, but in his Sandarbhas, he quoted those relevant verses from Upanishads and from Vedanta Sutra to show that it is not Advaita, proper Siddhanta. And Baladev Vidyabhushan in Vedanta Sutra also he quoted all different Upanishads to prove that. So only with this explanation you can approach them, otherwise they will not accept unless you prove it by Upanishads. Vaikarikat vikurvanan manas tattvam ajayata yat sankalpa vikalpabhyam vartate kama sambhava. From the false ego of goodness, another transformation takes place. From this evolves the mind, whose thoughts and reflections give rise to desire. Yat vidur hyani rudhakyam Hrishikaanam Adishwaram Shara Dendivara Shyamam Samradhyam Yogibhi Shanai. The mind of the living entity is known by the name of Lord Aniruddha, the supreme ruler of the senses. He possesses a bluish-black form resembling a lotus flower growing in the autumn. He is found slowly by the yogis. Slowly means gradually. Tejasat tu vikurvanat buddhi tattvam abhutsati dravya spurana vigyanam indriyanam anugraha. By transformations of the false ego in passion, intelligence takes birth, O virtuous lady. The functions of intelligence are to help in ascertaining the nature of objects when they come into view and to help the senses. Sankshayo tha viparyaso nishchaya smritirevacha swapa iti uchate buddhir lakshanam vrititah pritak. Doubt, misapprehension, correct apprehension, memory, and sleep, as determined by their different functions, are said to be the distinct characteristics of intelligence. Teja sanindriyani eva kriya jnana vibhagasha pranasya hi kriya shaktir buddhir vijnana shaktita. That is why when one gets transcendental realization, he directly perceives the truth that is beyond or above intelligence and mind. So at that time one can perceive that all those doubts and all those things are part of mind and intelligence, and they have no influence over this realization. They have no power, cannot do anything, because truth is self-effulgent, and there is no doubt, because doubt is only in they are responsible for all those doubts. It is in them, but now they cannot give any influence when self-effulgent truth manifests. That is all controlled or subdued. That is why also it is not enough only to have theoretical knowledge, even if proper explanation, like I will memorize everything what Madhvacharya wrote in commentaries, and I will try to impress on someone to convince him. It will not work. You have to be also well established in that realization, then you can influence, because like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came there and he was so attractive to those sannyasis, also pure devotee in whom Krishna manifests. There is something different, so they are attractive and there is some bliss coming from them, and that influences others. So Mahaprabhu first presented himself as a fool He said, I don't know Vedanta Sutra because I'm a fool. My Gurudev told me. I did not study Vedanta, but Gurudev gave me that verse that in Kali Yuga, ultimate goal of life can be gotten by chanting Harinam. So I was doing, and I became mad. Then I asked Gurudev why I became mad. Then Gurudev said, no, this is the fruit of this mantra. You got Krishna Prem. That is the ultimate goal of life. You go on doing, and you also inspire others. So when he was expressing that Krishna Prema, then they were all influenced. And they could understand that is something superior than Brahmajyoti. Then after, when they were convinced because of his realization, he also told them about the explanation, proper explanation of Vedanta. Otherwise, only giving explanation, it may work for some, but not for all. There should be that spiritual realization backing. Egoism in the mode of passion produces two kinds of senses. The senses for acquiring knowledge and the senses of action. Jnanendriya, Karmendriya. The senses of action depend on the vital energy, that is prana, and the senses for acquiring knowledge depend on intelligence. This is also described in Upanishads. How prana is the chief of all are dependent on her. One can live without one sense. They were quarreling which sense is superior. But ultimately, it was shown that body can live even if one sense is not there. Others will do. But when prana wanted to go out, then all were disturbed. All functions stopped, everything. Then they understood that prana is supreme. They are dependent on prana. When prana leaves the body, the senses are dead. But the Jnanendriyas, they depend on intelligence. Like in Gajendra Moksha also we hear this, that even if mind is present, but without intelligence, one will not be able to categorize what is what. That perception, what one will get through senses and through mind, if intelligence is not there, then you cannot, that knowledge has no, or that information has no value. It has to be categorized. And intelligence is, of course, dependent on Atma. And Atma is dependent on Paramatma, Bhagavan. That is why in that first verse Gajendra says, because of you being present, everything is working. Otherwise it cannot. Tamasa cha vikurvanat bhagavat virya choditat shabda matram abhut tasman nabha shrotram tu shabdagam. When egoism in ignorance is agitated by the sex energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the subtle element sound is manifested, and from sound come the ethereal sky and the sense of hearing. Yes, it appears from this verse that all the objects of our sense gratification are the products of egoism in ignorance. Three kinds of ego, sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, and from sattvic certain things come out, rajasic certain, this for tamasic ego come these five elements in this sequence. First, sound, and ether, and hearing. Then yes. Then air is coming, and water, fire, water and earth in this sequence. Yes. Sound is the cause of the sky, and sky is the cause of the shrotram, or the air. The air is the first sense for receiving knowledge. Atashrayatvam shabdasya drashtur lingatvam evacha tan matratvam chanabhaso lakshanam kavayo vidu. Persons who are learned and who have true knowledge define sound as that which conveys the idea of an object, indicates the presence of a speaker screened from our view, and constitutes the subtle form of ether. Bhutanam chidratritvam bahir antaram evacha pranendriyatma dhishnatvam nabhaso vritti lakshanam. The activities and characteristics of the ethereal element can be observed as accommodation for the room for the external and internal existences of all living entities, namely the field of activities of the vital air, the senses, and the mind. Everything is within ether happening. Accommodation is Nabhasah Shabda Tan Matrat Kala Gatya Vikurvata Sparsho Bhavatato Vayus Tvak Sparshasya Cha Sangraha. From ethereal existence, which evolves from sound, the next transformation takes place under the impulse of time, and thus the subtle element touch, and thence the air and sense of touch become prominent. Mridutvam katinatvam cha shaityam ushnatvam evacha etat sparshasya sparshatvam tan matratvam nabha svataha. Softness and hardness and cold and heat are the distinguishing attributes of touch, which is characterized as the subtle form of air. So these are all connected. Tanmatras and elements and senses. Tanmatras means this touch, sight. It is all scientifically made by Supreme Lord. It is not by coincidence or chaotic, or no, it is, everything is very scientifically made. Here in Bhagavatam, also in Upanishad, also you will find how this is all connected. Chalanam vyuhanam praptir netritvam dravya shabdayo sarvendriyanam atmatvam vayo karma bilakshanam. The action of the air is exhibited in movements, mixing, allowing approach to the objects of sound and other sense perceptions, and providing for the proper functioning of all other senses. Yes. Air is having a certain function. Vayoscha sparshatan matrat rupam deve Ritat abhut samutitam tatas tejas chakshu rupo palam bhanam. Yes. By interaction of the air and the sensations of touch, one receives different forms according to destiny, means previous actions result. By evolution of such forms, there is fire. Rup means fire, form. And the eyes sees different forms in color. Then water will come. Dravya krititvam gunata vyakti samstatvam evacha tejastvam tejasah sadvi rupa matrasya vritaya. My dear mother, the characteristics of form are understood by dimension, quality and individuality. The form of fire is appreciated by its effulgence. Yes, that is why Mayavadis, they cannot understand this. How Supreme Lord can have form, because characteristic of form is this particular dimension and individuality. So how something with particular dimension can be unlimited? So for them, because of their, they try to think by intelligence, they think whatever has a form is limited, but that is not applied, that is applied only to material form, not to spiritual form of Supreme Lord. Dyotanam, Pachanam, Panam, Adanam, Himamardanam, Tejaso Vritayastveta, Shoshanam, Kshut Trit Evacha. Fire is appreciated by its light and by its ability to cook, to digest, to destroy cold, to evaporate, and to give rise to hunger, thirst, eating, and drinking. Yes, here Sai Maharaj in these all commentaries, he's mentioning Ayurveda many times, because this science is used there. They have to know all this, how elements are working, what is, who has what function, and how to treat all this with, yes. The Ayurvedic treatment thus corroborates the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam, because that Krishna knows how he made all this body and how everything is functioning, and if there is any dysfunction, there will be certain disease. So how to treat that, he also knows. That is why Ayurvedic treatment is perfect. It will cure 100%. But by misfortune, by the influence of time, that Ayurvedic knowledge was not properly handed down. Like spiritual knowledge, everything is gradually lost. So Krishna has to come again and give again. But in its original pure form, as given by Dhanvantari and those who fully could accept it, realize it, that Ayurvedic treatment can cure any disease 100% without fail. Like someone who made one car, some scientist, he knows how car works. So when some defect comes, he will detect it. Yes, here is the defect. That is why it is not working. Then immediately he will just correct that, and everything will work again, because he knows how it is working. Like that, body, this whole material body, means subtle body and the gross body, all. There is particular science how it is working. It is not by coincidence. So one who knows this science, he can also detect the defect if it happens and how to correct it. Rupa matrat vikurvanat, that is why also in Ayurveda also it is there. But sometimes medicine will also not work, or proper treatment, because it is due to karma. And you cannot treat without taking in consideration that this is the result of certain action. That is why in that case, if it is due to karma, then Ayurveda also prescribes meditation, certain yagyas, certain fastings, certain spiritual practices to remove the effect of that karma. It will not always work with medicine. So this point also Supreme Lord knows. It is due to karma. So unless you rectify that, it cannot be cured. So this type of treatment is also given in Ayurveda. But of course, what is the root cause of karma and sinful activity, that is false ego. That is not given there. How to treat false ego, or maybe it is, I don't know. But this is given in devotional science, because Jiva is averse to Krishna, wants to enjoy. That is why false ego is coming. So unless you surrender to Bhagavan, you cannot totally eradicate karma and false ego. You cannot. Only one who unconditionally surrenders, he can come out from this. But in Karma Kant, Ayurveda like this, they will give you like certain procedures. If you did some wrong activity and there is certain result, then you can rectify that by certain things and you will be okay materially. But you cannot be liberated fully from material existence. Only you can make your living here in this world healthy or without disturbance. But for the Atma, that is also like a prison. You are bound. Although not suffering material, this suffering so much, still that is suffering for Atma. That Jnanis, they realize this. That is why they want liberation. But Jnanis, they don't know that liberation is not the ultimate goal, because by that you cannot be satisfied fully. And also they don't know what is the cause of bondage. It is aversion to Krishna. So that is also not complete solution. Complete solution is only devotion to Krishna. Rupa matrat vikurvanat tejaso deva choditat rasa matram abhutasmat ambo jihva rasa graha. By the interaction of fire and the visual sensation, the subtle element taste evolves under a superior arrangement. Subtle element means this, tanmatra. From taste, water is produced, and the tongue, which perceives taste, is also manifested. Kashaya madurastikta katamla iti naikadha bhautikanam vikarena rasa eko vidhyate. Although originally one, taste becomes manifold as astringent, sweet, bitter, pungent, sour, and salty due to contact with other substances. Sahajiyas, they are not hearing these things. They immediately jump to 10th canto, Krishna Lila, and also not 10th canto, Krishna Lila, immediately to Ras Lila with the gopis. And Saki and Manjari immediately jump there. But it is not possible to get in that way. They don't care to hear these things. how Krishna created this material creation, how everything is functioning, and why it is so, and all this. And what is the difference between spirit and matter? They don't care. They just jump because they want to enjoy the lila. They think you can enjoy in the lila, but you cannot enjoy in the lila. You can only serve in lila. So if there is any enjoying spirit in you, you have no actual contact with the lila, real lila. You may have contact with imagination, but not real lila. Only with service attitude you can enter into lila. But to get that service attitude, there is a procedure. So Shukadeva Goswami was not unnecessarily explaining all these things. Just this one verse I will read. Kledanam, pindanam, triptih, prana, napya, ya nondanam, tapa panado bhuyastvam ambhaso vritayastvaima. Tvi-imah. The characteristics of water are exhibited by its moistening other substances, coagulating various mixtures, causing satisfaction, maintaining life, softening things, driving away heat, incessantly supplying itself to reservoirs of water, and refreshing by slaking thirst. This is all science. You will find in Upanishads these topics, and then in Vedanta Sutra it is clarified, and in Puranas also, and in Bhagavatam, not unnecessarily. Purpose is to get understanding of how everything works and why it works in that way and why it is happening, so that we can realize that Sambandha Gyan with Krishna and become inclined to serve him. Then we have to serve him, Abhideya Tattva, serve, Vaidhi, and then Raganuga. That is service. Raganuga is service. It is not enjoyment. You cannot enjoy Krishna. And practical service means real service, not imaginary. Then one can get ultimate goal of life, Krishna Prema. But it is through service. And to arouse that service attitude, Sambandha Gyan is necessary to know, to realize. So tomorrow is special day, Madhvacharya, and also Vijaya Dashami and Adivas for Kartik Brata, for those who start on Ekadashi, like our mat, Gopinath Gauriya Mat and some others, they are starting on Ekadashi and finishing on Ekadashi. Some others, they start on Purnima, which is also possible, or on Dvadashi. So tomorrow we'll have Adivas for Kartik Brata.